All right, ladies and gentlemen, time for the main event of the evening. This is probably going to be the biggest segment of the show, hence why I saved it for last. And we are talking about Shazam! Fury of the Gods bombing opening weekend. This article from Variety: box office Shazam! Fury of the Gods stumbles with $30 million opening weekend. And if you think that it only bombed in the US, guess what? It also bombed in what I believe is the second biggest movie market on the planet, which is China. Fury of the Gods earned $4.3 million, 86% less than the first film in the franchise. In fact, this movie has underperformed so much that it's now that Shazam! Fury of the Gods is hitting digital only release only a month after its theatrical release. I'm pulling this information from Comic Book Resources. According to Amazon's streaming service, superhero fans will be able to watch the latest DC Universe sequel in the comfort of their own homes as early as April 17th, 2023. Fury of the Gods opened in theaters on March 17th, meaning the sequel would have exactly 1 month of exclusive theatrical release. At the time of writing, Warner Bros. And DC Studios have not officially announced when Shazam! Fury of the Gods will release on digital, but still, that's pretty bad if that's actually true. And the movie is releasing on April 17th on Amazon. That pretty much just says that Warner Brothers and DC have absolutely no faith in this movie whatsoever. But anyway, let's get back to this initial Variety article reporting on the initial box office. Shazam wasn't the magic word at the weekend box office. Shazam! Fury of the Gods opened number one in North America, but that doesn't really mean much. But the Warner Bros. And DC Comics sequel fell short of expectations with a disappointing $30.5 million debut from 4,071 theaters. Heading into the weekend, the film was expected to collect $35 million to $40 million, which already wasn't all that spectacular since it cost north of $110 million to make and another $100 million to market. It's a substantial drop from 2019's Shazam, the first comic book installment starring Zachary Levi's quirky hero, which opened to $53.5 million and ended its box office run with $140 million domestically and $366 million globally. It's also one of the worst starts in the DC cinematic universe, other than pandemic-era releases like Wonder Woman 1984, which made $16.7 million, and The Suicide Squad, which made $26 million, which both opened simultaneously on HBO Max. And yes, and the biggest difference between watching a day-and-date release on HBO Max and Disney Plus through Premier Access was that you did not have to pay an additional fee to watch Wonder Woman 1984 or The Suicide Squad when they debuted on HBO Max. If you had an HBO Max account, if you had an HBO Max subscription, you just got to watch the movies. At the international box office, Shazam 2 added $35 million from 77 markets for a dismal global start of $65.5 million. Quote, "It's a soft start. There's no other way to put it," says Sean Robbins, chief analyst at Box Office Pro. Comic book films are steadily showing that without an event-level hook, it's difficult to live up to predecessor performances. Reviews and word of mouth may not help Shazam! Fury of the Gods in the coming weeks. It landed a B+ cinema score down from the first film's A grade, and it holds a 53% on Rotten Tomatoes, a dramatic decline from the original's 90% average. David F. Sandberg returned to direct Fury of the Gods, which centers on Levi's Billy Batson and his foster siblings, all of whom transform into superheroes when they say Shazam. As they team up to fight the Daughters of Atlas, who wield a weapon that could destroy the world, Rachel Zegler, Adam Brody, Lucy Liu, and Helen Mirren co-star in the film. Fury of the Gods, to some degree, is also the victim of the big reset at DC. It's the first movie to be released since James Gunn and Peter Safran took over the superhero universe and set it on a brand new direction. Though the producers have been careful not to absolutely rule out the return of any established DC hero, save for Henry Cavill as Superman, but we will get into that later. Fans can see the writing on the wall. Quote, "DC sequels have seen diminishing returns in recent years," Robbins says. "That's compounded by the current creative shakeup, whose impact won't be felt for a couple years, but make the broader franchise feel even more fragmented to audiences for the time being." At one point, comic book temples were untouchable at the box office, but Shazam 2, as well as Disney's poorly received Marvel sequel Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, are beginning to reveal cracks, at least when it comes to subpar rated adventures. Ant-Man 3 impressed with a mighty $106 million opening in February, which was the highest opening of any Ant-Man movie, by the way. But it has crumbled in subsequent weeks and will almost certainly end up as the lowest grossing installment in the trilogy. So you had the biggest opening of the trilogy, but now you have and it's also the lowest grossing entry of the Ant-Man series, despite scoring its biggest start. That's exactly what I said. DC's prior standalone adventure Black Adam, led by Dwayne Johnson, also massively disappointed in its theatrical run, grossing $392 million worldwide on its $200 million plus budget. And remember, also according to Variety, Black Adam reportedly lost anywhere between $50 and $100 million. So, Shazam! Fury of the Gods absolutely bombs. And what is the first thing that everybody tends to do when your movie bombs? You blame the fan base, of course. You have Zachary Levi going on the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast and basically trashing the fans for not supporting the movie. I'll play the clip in its entirety right here. Not the entire podcast, just only the important parts.
It's very difficult. But, you know, listen, I did my best. I have to accept that I know that I did my best, and all the other stuff is out of your hands. But yeah, I mean, even like on Twitter today, scrolling through, there's people that have, released some advanced reviews or just, fans who have seen it. And there's this incredibly positive stuff out there. And then, of course, there's these other people like the internet is full of, which is, very just negative to be negative people who like there's a whole contingent of comic book fans that it's really unfortunate that there's this one particular group of people that think they don't like me because I don't agree with them on other comic book movies and you know who I'm talking about. But instead of there being a conversation, like they take so many of my words or things completely out of context. Yeah. And then they go stir up all the other people that they know online, and they all just want to attack. And it's really sad because I mean this is just one example of so many examples of the amount of just venom and toxicity and bullying that goes on in these cyber dimensions.
And then you have Rachel Zegler come out on Twitter and basically said this quote. I'm pulling this from Variety, by the way. Hey, our film is actually really good, Zegler wrote on Twitter. But mostly, I just absolutely love making it, and the people I met whilst doing so, go see it, give it a chance. We have an 85% audience score for a reason. It sounds like another person who worked on a DC movie. It sounds just like another person that goes by the name of The Rock, also touting the audience score, but I may be getting a little ahead of myself on that one. Zegler continued, quote, "Some people out there are just being senselessly mean, and it's unnecessary, and I know if you can't handle the heat and all that nonsense, and you're right, but our film is actually very good. It's just cool to hate on fun nowadays. That's okay, we're good." So, to put it in plain English, wah, the critics are just a bunch of big meanies, wah. Go see the movie anyway, wah. Right, you even have the director coming out, David Sandberg, who honestly has the least offensive response. This coming from the Hollywood Reporter. The director took to Twitter Monday to note that the latest DC installment was his lowest critic score on Rotten Tomatoes, which stood at 53% the day he posted, but it was also his highest audience score at 87%. The film is a sequel to 2019's. Okay, quote, "I wasn't expecting a repeat of the first movie critically, but I was still a little surprised because I think it's a good film. Oh well," he wrote. And here we go. During a recent interview with the Hollywood Reporter, the director opened up about being ready to move on from superhero movies. Quote, "That's definitely how I feel right now. Yeah," he explained with a laugh. "I started my Shazam journey right after Annabelle creation in 2017, and so it's been quite a few years of just Shazam. So I'm very ready to move on and go back to horror and just try some other things." On Twitter, he doubled down on that, adding, quote, "After 6 years of Shazam, I'm definitely done with superhero movies for now." Right, which again is the least offensive response. And actually, guys, I want to tell you this right now. I recorded this segment originally a day prior, but I actually recorded this on March 20th. So by the time you guys will see this, it'll actually be, 2 days prior. But then this report from the Wrap came out, and I decided, you know what? I am going to scrap what I originally said and include this because I think this has a lot more to do with Shazam 2 failing at the box office. And by the way, one of the actors that was in Shazam 2 actually does agree with this report. And that is how Dwayne Johnson kneecapped Black Adam and Shazam 2 while trying to take over DC, an exclusive from The Wrap, written by Scott Mendelson. And you might know Scott Mendelson as the guy that covered the film industry over at Forbes. And this article has a whole lot of industry insiders. Obviously, all remain anonymous. But in my opinion, I do believe that he has like high level insiders, especially given the fact that, like I said, he used to work for Forbes, so maybe he has a lot of connections to a lot of higher up people at these studios. But anyway, let's dig into this report. The underwhelming $65 million worldwide debut of Shazam! Fury of the Gods is another black mark for the DC Universe, the second string superhero stable. But there's another villain, insiders told The Wrap. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. The Rock says, know your damn role. Who remembers when he used to walk out to that? Who remembers when he used to walk out to that entrance? And I promise I'm not going to replay the Pepperidge Farm Remembers because I've done that enough. I've done that enough this episode. Anyway, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who's behind the scenes maneuvering to boost another DC property, Black Adam, in which he starred, may well end up taking both franchises, they said. To be clear, DC has a host of problems that aren't Johnson's fault, which is why Warner Bros. Discovery is attempting a reboot under James Gunn and Peter Safran. But in trying to shape Black Adam as the new center of the DC universe, a strategy that failed to bolster Black Adam and undercut the once promising Shazam franchise, Johnson may have kneecapped both, painting a portrait of a celebrity who put his own brand before the work. Johnson did plenty of work in public to undermine Shazam, chiefly by promoting a face-off between Black Adam and Superman instead of the more canonical link between the hero Zachary Levi played and the former pro wrestler's own character. Yes, because for those that don't know, Black Adam was always Shazam's arch rival. Well, not always Shazam's arch rival, but at least since the 1970s. Privately, he vetoed a planned post-credit scene in Black Adam, which would have seen Shazam recruited by Aldous Hodge's Hawkman and other costumed heroes into the Justice Society of America. The Wrap can report exclusively thanks to disclosures by two high-level Hollywood insiders. And by the way, I'm pulling this from CBR. Shazam 2 director knows the post-credit scene is somewhat confusing, but here we go. But let's read the meat and potatoes right here. Speaking to the Hollywood Reporter, the filmmaker explained that his original vision for the sequel's mid-credit scene includes several members of the Justice Society of America, most recently seen in Black Adam. Sandberg elaborated that the moment was ultimately scrapped 3 days before it was meant to shoot. Quote, so Peter Safran, who produced this movie, and Peacemaker made some calls, and thankfully Jen Holland and Steve Agee were able to come by on very short notice, the director said. I mean, the scene makes a little less sense with them. It's like, why are they recruiting for Justice Society? But you can kind of see it as they're working for Amanda Waller. So I was just very grateful for them to get in there, and it was really cool shooting it because I'm a big fan of Peacemaker. Well, if you jump over to this report, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson may have had something to do with that. But anyway, back to the Wrap report. There's plenty to blame for the underwhelming grosses for Black Adam and Shazam: Fury of the Gods, including middling reviews and the mixed message sent by the DC Studios revamp. Like the Lego Movie, Shazam 2 might be another example of a movie where the audience saw the original as family-friendly fare, but perceived the sequel as a kid flick with limited appeal. Still, Johnson's public and private actions seem to play an undeniable role. A representative for Johnson didn't respond to the Wrap's request for comment. Reps for Warner Bros. and New Line declined to comment. But here we go. Quote, Dwayne tries to sell himself as bigger than the movie, said a high-ranking Hollywood executive who asked for anonymity in order to discuss talent matters frankly while speaking to the Wrap. He's one of the few people who always thinks he's the most important person in any situation or room. Really? You don't but fucking say. Because I remember a little Twitter exchange that he had with a random person back in 2011 where the person called him a douchebag, and he responded in a very, very weird way in a tweet that's already been taken down. But I'll go ahead and show it right here, and you can read the tweet for himself. But yes, like I said, that tweet was taken down, but not before people screen capped it, and all of a sudden that was making the rounds about that was making the rounds at the time for being quote unquote transphobic. But anyway, let's get back to the Wrap's report. Wow. That plays into the kind of franchises that Johnson usually spearheads, like the movie based on the Rampage video game, a remake of the cinematic adaptation of Jules Verne's novel The Mysterious Island, or Jumanji. Problems arose when Johnson entered a franchise that was bigger than him, like the Fast and the Furious series, where he clashed with franchise architect Vin Diesel. Yes, I believe he called Vin Diesel a candy ass on Instagram. Or Baywatch, where his star power couldn't save an expensive film built on weak IP. I mean, to be fair to Baywatch, it was only really popular in the 90s, and anything beyond that, like, that was a really weird movie to reboot. Johnson spent much of the weeks before the release of Black Adam touting not the movie itself or his character's in-universe connection to Shazam, but instead on a theoretical clash of titans between himself and Henry Cavill's Superman. And let's go ahead and let's check out this clip right here.
So I'm going to ask this question without asking this question.
Okay.
All fans, we want to see Black Adam face Superman. It's just what we want to see.
Yeah.
You talked about listening to the fans. What does that fight look like in your mind, and who lands the first punch?
I think Black Adam lands the first punch. Now, I don't know if Black Adam lands the last punch, because Superman, I grew up a DC boy. Superman, I love Superman. I loved Superman, and I still do. Clearly.
Yes. You have a filmmaker's vision, though. You understand what makes good movies. Is the scene already built in your mind? Is it raining? Is it sunshine? Like, can you see it in your mind right now when you think about it?
Jake, I could see things so clearly on how that scene looks like, what that scene looks like, what the film looks like, what the next 3 films look like. Now, whether or not that comes to fruition, that always helps when you have that kind of clarity. But here's what I do know. Listening to the fans when I was wrestling always led and guided me, just like now. So for the past 10 years, as I was pushing Black Adam up this hill to get made, for the past 5, 6, 7 years, I was also listening to the fans at the same time. Where you have Black Adam, we will create Black Adam for him to be the most powerful and unstoppable force on this planet. The most powerful and unstoppable force in the entire universe has been on the sidelines for too long.
Then DC Films head Walter Hamada vetoed a cameo by the star of the divisively received Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and Justice League, but Johnson went over his head and got approval from Warner Brothers Film Group co-CEOs Michael DeLuca and Pamela Abdy, which probably led to the news that, hey, Henry Cavill is back as Superman, right? He even announced this on his Instagram with this very video.
Hey everyone, I wanted to wait until the weekend was over before posting this because I wanted to give you all a chance to watch Black Adam. But now that plenty of you have, I wanted to make it official that I am back as Superman. And the image you see on this post and what you saw in Black Adam are just a very small taste of things to come. So there's a lot to be thankful for, and I'll get to that in time, but I want to thank you guys most of all. Thank you for your support, and thank you for your patience. I promise it will be rewarded.
And then not even 2 months later, Henry Cavill comes back onto Instagram to announce that he's no longer coming back as Superman. I have the Instagram post right here in front of me. I'm not going to post it on the screen because it's just nothing but text. But Henry Cavill said, quote, "I have just had a meeting with James Gunn and Peter Safran, and it's sad news, everyone. I will, after all, not be returning as Superman. After being told by the studio to announce my return back in October," so let me pause right here and let me interject. After being told by the studio, so he was told by Warner Brothers proper to announce this return. Because why would he not say after being told by DC to announce my return? Right? With this report coming from Dwayne Johnson potentially kneecapping both Black Adam and Shazam, it was probably Warner Brothers that told Henry Cavill to announce his return as Superman. So again, this new report is putting some old news in a new context. But anyway, after being told by the studio to announce my return back in October, prior to their hire, this news isn't the easiest, but that's life. The changing of the guard is something that happens. I respect that. James and Peter have a universe to build. I wish them and all involved with the new universe the best of luck and the happiest of fortunes. For those who have been by my side through the years, we can mourn for a bit, but then we must remember Superman is still around. Everything he stands for still exists, and the examples he sets for us are still there. My turn to wear the cape has passed, but what Superman stands for never will. It's been a fun ride with you all, onwards and upwards. Right? So now that we're done with the tangent, let's get back to the rap report. Here we go. Another Hollywood Insider quote right here. Quote, "Instead of making a movie, he wants to extend his brand," referring to Dwayne Johnson, "he wants to extend his brand and make a brand centered on himself," said the Hollywood executive who criticized Johnson. An Instagram post in which he declared that the hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change was an implicit statement that Johnson's Black Adam should be the new focal point of the universe. That meant positioning himself to go up against Henry Cavill's Superman, not Zachary Levi's goofy Shazam. And here is the Instagram post that this rap report is referring to.
5,000 years ago, Kahndaq was a melting pot of cultures, wealth, power, and magic. Yet most of us had nothing, except for the chains around our necks. Kahndaq needed a hero. Instead, they got me. I did what needed to be done, and they imprisoned me for it. Now, 5,000 years later, I'm free. And I give you my word. No one will ever stop me again.
Here we go. This right here. The actor failed to learn the lesson of Universal's Dark Universe. As the architects of Universal's canceled Dark Universe, or Warner Brothers' King Arthur and the Legend of the Sword might tell you, you don't promise a cinematic universe before you have a hit like Marvel did with Iron Man. Johnson spiked plans in the mid-2010s to make a film featuring both Shazam and Black Adam in favor of two separate films. That worked out well for Levi's acclaimed and successful first Shazam movie. As a dark, violent, and unapologetically rock'em sock'em actioner, it was the right call for Black Adam as well. The issue came with Johnson going rogue and implicitly maligning the Shazam franchise without checking to see if anyone wanted to see a Black Adam versus Superman movie. Maybe Johnson mistook the online conversation about Cavill's run as Kal-El for real-world interest, or he didn't realize that online discourse about Zack Snyder's first three DC films was partially a bot-driven vocal minority. Perhaps he didn't care. Either way, the actor-producer spent September and October selling the notion that bringing back Henry Cavill as the last son of Krypton was what, quote-unquote, the fans wanted. The narrative was framed in a way as to further fan the flames of an ongoing civil war between those in the so-called Snyderverse and the mainstream DCU. New DC Studios co-chief and Shazam producer Peter Safran resurfaced a version of the post-credit scene Johnson vetoed, and it now exists as a mid-credit scene cookie in Fury of the Gods. But Johnson nixed the use of Black Adam actors, and the scene now plays out with Jennifer Holland and Steve Agee from Suicide Squad and Peacemaker. Quote, by alienating the established property that his character was born out of and refusing to integrate with other well-established characters, Johnson systematically crippled 2 franchises and has harmed DC in the process, another Hollywood insider told The Wrap. Black Adam underperformed relative to its cost, earning $168 million domestically and $393 million worldwide on a COVID-affected $230 million budget. That global total is right between G.I. Joe Retaliation, $375 million in 2013, and Rampage, $430 million in 2018. But those films, along with both Jumanji sequels, Journey to the Mysterious Island and San Andreas, cost between $80 million and $130 million. Quote, Johnson was a big reason why Black Adam was able to perform above the level it likely would have without him, said Box Office Pro chief analyst Sean Robbins. In a pre-pandemic environment, the movie likely would have added an extra $125 million to $175 million from Russia and China, giving it a good enough $550 million global total. But the other problem might be underestimating the overlap between the audience for a DC cape flick and a Dwayne Johnson action fantasy. Johnson, meanwhile, touted a profit projection for Black Adam and compared its worldwide gross to the first Captain America. In terms of painting its star as unwilling to concede to commercial reality, the cover-up was worse than the crime. Yes, and if we look here, I will splash up Dwayne Johnson's tweet right here. This was published on December 7th, 2022. Waited to confirm with financiers before I shared this excellent Black Adam news. Our film will profit between $52 million to $72 million. And to put this into context, he said this after Variety had reported that the movie was set to lose anywhere between $50 and $100 million. So anyway, waited to confirm with financiers before I shared this excellent Black Adam news. Our film will profit between $52 million and $72 million. Fact. And it's only a fact because The Rock says it's a fact. At almost $400 million worldwide, we are building our new franchise step by step. First Captain America did $370 million for the DC future. When will The Rock realize that he is not Stone Cold Steve Austin? In the fact, when he says fact, he might as well have replaced that line with, that's the bottom line, 'cause Stone Cold said so. That's basically all of his facts right there. Is basically just believe me because I'm Dwayne The Rock Johnson. But here we go, and here's the final point they're bringing up. Franchise Viagra, no franchise. Oh wait, did I skip? Yes, I did actually. I actually did skip another section. I was trying to read a little ahead of myself. But anyway, getting back to Dwayne Johnson's tweet, right? It's they at least bring this up. At least Jared Leto didn't spend last April of 2022, swearing that Morbius was a hit. Well, Morbius was a quasi hit. If you look at the memes, especially this little meme right here.
It's Morbin time.
Right, that little meme actually inspired Sony to re-release Morbius back into theaters. And guess what? Morbius bombed yet again. Forbes report, I'm pulling this from IGN. Forbes reported that the movie made $300,000 across the 1,037 theaters it was screened in, translating to just $289 per theater on Morbius's re-release. So yes, Morbius absolutely bombed at the time back in 2022. Then the It's Morbin time memes were going around. Sony said, hey, let's re-release this to capitalize on the memes. But then they realized that meme culture does not always translate to financial success. But still, this article does bring up a good point. At least Jared Leto, wasn't on Twitter swearing that, Morbius was in fact a hit when it was just a meme machine. But anyway, this final point here, franchise Viagra no more. 10 years ago, the release of G.I. Joe Retaliation, starring Johnson as new protagonist Roadblock. To be fair, Roadblock was in the original cartoon, but not in the 2009 movie with Channing Tatum. Was seen as evidence he could juice an existing theatrical franchise. Now, what do you mean by juice? Are you referring to quote-unquote vitamins that he most certainly is on? In my personal opinion, the man at the age of 53, Joe Rogan is not in the frickin' minority on this one. A man in his early 50s, because I think Dwayne Johnson's now 53, you cannot get that jacked without a little assistance from some quote-unquote vitamins. And for those of you that don't know what vitamins are, that's a slang term for steroids, which puts Hulk Hogan's saying in a whole new light. Remember, because he always told the kids to take their vitamins. So what did Hulk Hogan mean by taking your vitamins? Did he refer to the Flintstones gummy vitamins, or did he refer to the one where you stick the needle in your arm? Or actually, most athletes do it in the leg, because the professional sports leagues tend to check the arms for needle marks, but they don't check the legs. So yeah, little fun fact there. Anyway, I've tangented too much. His supporting role in the acclaimed $620 million grossing Fast 5 helped turn the franchise into an A-level action series, which I will give him. Fast 5 was the first Fast and Furious movie to gross more than $500 million, to be fair to him. And Journey to the Mysterious Island earned more than Brendan Fraser's Journey to the Center of the Earth. Journey to the Mysterious Island earned $335 million at the box office, while Journey to the Center of the Earth, Brendan Fraser's Journey to the Center of the Earth, only earned $244 million by comparison. The narrative stuck even while Retaliation earned less domestically, $122 million, than Stephen Sommers' G.I. Joe The Rise of Cobra at $150 million. Warner Brothers Discovery is making like Walt Disney and pledging to keep moving forward, expressing extreme confidence in both The Flash and the soft reboot plans hatched by Peter Safran and James Gunn, beginning with Superman Legacy in 2025. Yet Gunn and Safran have a talent challenge in their reboot. A key star damaged the once promising Shazam franchise while strangling another Black Adam in its crib. Johnson's public pandering to an online vocal minority and refusal to concede box office defeat has likewise hurt his franchise-saving reputation. Johnson tried to remold the DC universe in his image, and in doing so, he not only failed to save the franchise, but actively contributed to its downfall. What's the opposite of franchise Viagra? Well, I think Dwayne Johnson's 4 hours are up. If you catch my drift. And so, why am I talking about this report that Dwayne Johnson kneecapped Black Adam and Shazam 2? Because even Zachary Levi agrees with this report. I said we were going to be circling back to him in the beginning of this. This is an Instagram post. I will post it right here. I think it was part of his Instagram stories with the quote, "The truth shall set you free," Levi wrote on Instagram. That pretty much all but confirms that this report has a lot more weight to it than just, than just a bunch of internet speculation. If the lead of Shazam 2 is jumping in and basically saying the truth shall set you free, basically giving this report a whole lot of weight. Now, originally, I had my own reasons for why Shazam 2 bombed, with them being, let me see if I can pull up my list here. My original list was that the first movie underperformed opening weekend as well, which we did bring up. It only made $15.5 million, so it wasn't that high grossing. Right, the first movie was basically just a remake of Big, and why would you want to make a sequel to the movie Big? Makes no sense. James Gunn decanonized the DC universe, which we do know he completely changed it around and almost wrote out Shazam completely, along with Aquaman 2, which probably also caused probably also caused a whole lot of damage. But if this report is true, and Zachary Levi is almost confirming without saying confirmed that yes, this report is true, that Dwayne Johnson absolutely kneecapped Black Adam in Shazam 2, I think that this has a lot. I think that this is the biggest reason right here is that, like I said, I think I said this like 10, 15 minutes ago, Black Adam was the arch rival of Shazam, but instead of teasing the ultimate showdown between Black Adam and Shazam, no, it's going to be Black Adam and Superman, and Henry Cavill is going to return. So again, how much of that, Henry Cavill is coming back as Superman was a Dwayne Johnson decision, and then 2 months after Henry Cavill announces his return, he then all of a sudden announces, well, yeah, I'm not going to be Superman after all. Sorry for leading all of you on, but the studio asked me to announce it back in October of 2022, and yeah, it's not happening now. And guys, I think I'm going to go ahead and end this episode right here. The very first rebranded TMRP on Metropolis Radio. I think this is a very, very good spot to end it on. I think we covered everything that we need to cover with Shazam 2, along with the Victoria Alonso situation, Mandalorian Season 3, and Damon Lindelof's Star Wars movie. So I'm going to go ahead and end this right here. If you guys watched all of these segments, back to back to back in the playlist, thanks so much for doing so. And if you've been following me long enough, I am always terrible at ending whatever I do, whether it be a video or this new podcast series. So I will see you guys next time.